Welcome to Coleman Report Fraud Friday. My name is Joseph Coleman. I am the Executive Director of the Coleman SBA Loan Broker Table, and I am very happy to be here with a special guest, Yrenilsa. I'm sorry, I'm messing that up, but she's from Momentus Capital, and she has a big announcement. She is the Managing Director of Investments at Momentus Capital. And what's going on with the big news of the day, Ms. Lopez?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. So I'm just here to announce that we have just closed our $171 million fund. It's called the Equitable Prosperity Fund, and it's to drive positive social impact in underestimated communities. So we're really happy to announce that the fund is essentially provides growth capital. It's a national footprint, and so we will be providing, and we have been providing, growth capital to small businesses that are typically underestimated, underserved, and we do that by giving them the kinds of instruments that they're not able to find with your typical loan lender, with your typical venture capital. We provide non-dilutive instruments that allow them to grow, expand, launch new products, hire more people, and just generally create more impact in their communities.
Excellent, wonderful. And how long have you guys been working in the SBA lending space? And I know there was some announcements last year, but how has it been in working with the industry, and how's that going?
Well, Momentus Capital, which is the branded family of organizations, which includes CDC Small Business and Capital Impact Partners, we've been at this for over 4 decades. So we've got over 40 years working in the small business industry. And so we've been doing that with several different products. We have a continuum of capital where we work with all businesses at every stage of development. The investment product, our fund, is a first time in the industry. So this is the first time for us. It's the first time for the industry. But we have been working at this as far as a team being built for 2 years now. Now we've finally closed the fund, but we now have a portfolio of 10 investments. We've invested now a part of this fund, and so we've been ready to go. We've been gearing up, but now this is a final close.
Excellent. Well, wonderful. Hopefully you can stay on for some questions that we have from the audience. If not, no problem. But I really wanted to focus on your announcements. It's wonderful news. So
thank you so much.
And to the news of the day, Delaney, I'll let you take this over. The new updated SBA Form 1086. Bob was in Memphis with Joel Baines at his wonderful event, and they were talking about the new forms. What's going on in the secondary market?
Goodness, Joseph, I'm probably going to have to ping pong this one right back to you. I'm only as good as my research, and I'm not super aware of the updates. Could you explain it?
Well,
Lance, maybe you can.
So, guys, I'm not on video today. I apologize. Had a little surgery on Wednesday and am not as presentable as I would like to be. The new SBA Form 1086 has a it's like the 1919 and other SBA forms that have been updated with more certifications. One of the certifications that's been added to the 1086 is one where the lender is certifying that the borrower is not planning to refinance this loan in the foreseeable future. And I think it's probably in response to we've had such interest rate change over the last couple years, and you probably have some lenders who have or some borrowers who have gotten a loan, got it sold in the secondary market, and then tried to refinance it a year or two down the road, even though there is a subsidy recoupment fee. But the only big change to the 1086 is the lenders certifying that they don't have any knowledge that the borrower plans to refinance anytime in the near future.
Lance, maybe you could just give a quick update. How do you feel the SBA secondary market is performing now, and very timely conversations with SBA and Joel Baines' group yesterday. But the outlook, it seems like with anticipated rate cuts, more SBA loan production is expected. Borrowers seek secure lower payments.
I mean,
do you see the secondary market as stable? What's going on? Maybe you can give us.
I think the secondary market is in a great place right now. I didn't see small business lending necessarily pause when interest rates went up. I mean, it continued to be very active. I think when we see interest rates go down, we'll probably see a surge in SBA lending and a surge in loans that are being sold on the secondary market. So, I think the secondary market's in a great place right now and should continue to be so. And like I said, if we see rates drop a little bit, we'll probably see a surge in lending activity.
Yeah, what they were speaking about yesterday is the SBA is aiming to prevent churning, where the refinance loans are categorized properly, as opposed to getting away with it in 18 months. It's going to come to the full term for the secondary market. So I think that's the aim of the whole thing. So Delaney, let's move on to your stories. How about you take this away, and I'll let you lead with this.
All right, well, we had some pretty big news at the start of the week. Cabbage decided to pay $120 million to resolve PPP fraud allegations, and this involves two different settlements. So the first one is a settlement of $63.2 million, and this was regarding allegations that they were inflating tens of thousands of PPP loans so that SBA would guarantee and forgive loans in amounts that were far exceeded what these borrowers were actually eligible for. They further stated that they were aware of these errors and still continued this behavior. And then the second settlement for $56.7 million was resolving allegations that the company knowingly failed to implement adequate fraud controls.
An incredible number, Lance. What do you think about
Well, a lot of conversation early in the week with different people about this story. Of course, the question is, Cabbage has agreed to pay, but Cabbage is in bankruptcy. And so effectively what SBA is a very large unsecured creditor. And they'll have to sell the assets of Cabbage to convert that to money that would pay these proposed settlements. So, we see in PPP fraud both. We've not seen many settlements like this with a former lender, but we see a lot of PPP settlements where we see a real big number. And so the more important number to me is how much are they actually going to get? And so that number's still to be defined. Inflating applications certainly is we hear so many stories about the borrower who inflated their PPP loan to get a nice car, vacation, private jet travel, so forth. The reason a financial institution would inflate an application is to get a bigger processing fee. So that's what they're in trouble for here. Of course, Cabbage, they've been in bankruptcy for quite some time now. So it'll be interesting to see this as it moves from a settlement to actual payment.
Yeah, I will be curious to see how much they actually get. And in addition, this is just an interesting little bit. There were two whistleblowers involved, so I'm also curious how much they will receive for this.
Well, we'll follow this story in detail, Delaney. I know you're following it closely, but just an extraordinary number. So, and I think Lance, you're absolutely right. We'll see how much they can recoup. So, go ahead, Lance.
Joe. I was going to say, Joe, the same thing happens on PPP fraud when they have a loan that's $17,000 and they pursue. I'm against fraud. I want to make that public statement, but sometimes they will spend inordinate amount of resources and time chasing after a real small fraud case.
Yeah.
And you'll see they have restitution of like $32,000. Well, the reality is that person that they're probably prosecuting has nothing. They spent the money, it's gone, and there's not a likelihood of recovery. So I am for them.
And the manpower to do that is expensive. I mean, there's
all
the acronyms are at play. So
yeah.
But Delaney, what did Mr. Tolan do?
Mr. Tolan was part of this PPP and idle fraud. He pled guilty to one count of submitting false claims to the government, and this was a fraud involving some shell companies with no employees and no business activity, yet he still applied for $1.7 million in PPP and idle across multiple banks as well. In addition to that, he also defrauded the IRS, so we have some tax fraud in there. He's taking advantage of the employee retention credit and the COVID sick and family leave credit. So he received about $200,000 from that. And in my research, I found another interesting little bit. This is not his first time he's been in a little bit of trouble, and I'm going to pull this language directly from the cease and desist order. He's had some behavior in the past that lacked integrity. He was engaging in dishonest conduct and conducted business in a dishonest manner. And the reason he had a cease and desist order is because he was operating as an insurance agent after his license had already been revoked. Or some unsavory things, of course.
Yeah, some of these stories are kind of interesting because you have somebody who has shown this kind of behavior before, and during the pandemic, they just elevated it to a new level.
I actually do have a question. I'm a little bit curious, since he was investigated and he did have a cease and desist order and whatnot. I don't think he was ever truly accused or prosecuted of fraud. So if his businesses were eligible or real, would he have been able to get a loan?
If he were not prosecuted, that's a great question, Delaney. If he were not prosecuted and had not actually caused a loss to the federal government and had a legitimate business, he would have been eligible for pandemic funding, whether it be through PPP, idle, restaurant revitalization. So that is a good question. And there's some of the cases that I see that, I step back and ask the question, would that person have been eligible under normal circumstances? And quite often the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Tell us about this next story, Delaney.
All right. Mr. Rao here was charged with 2 counts of wire fraud for some PPP fraud. He sought over $18 million across Massachusetts, Wisconsin, and Georgia. 9 of those were submitted for companies in Massachusetts, where he received $7 million. 1.5 was forgiven, actually. And again, pretty classic fraud scheme, false statements about payroll and the number of employees. And they said that he misused the funds to purchase a luxury condominium in New York City and sent some money to foreign businesses he owned.
Luxury condos, where are the cars?
Yeah, no, I'm not so sure, in my opinion, that a luxury condo was worth it. But
the foreign wire transfers makes the wire fraud pretty easy. But yeah. So,
right.
I'm sorry, was he charged?
Yes, he was charged.
So, okay. Have they given
And I guess, you know what this is? Thank you for bringing that up. Actually, normally I would drop in a lot of allegedly. So let me do that now. This is all alleged. This is not confirmed behavior.
All right.
All right, and in this one, it's a little bit of a shorter story, but it is interesting. A former bank vice president recently pleaded guilty. She admitted that she created over $1.5 million in false and fictitious loans using customers' information without their knowledge. Because she was, a vice president, she had authority to access and create loans in the bank's computer system. So she would make these loans and then divert the loan proceeds for her own personal use. And she will have to forfeit that $1.5 million.
Yeah, this is the oldest story in the books, guys. And when I finished my MBA and went to work for FDIC resolutions and receivership, the very first project I had way back then was something very similar to this. Now, the numbers have grown, guys. I mean, $1.5 million back when I finished my MBA would have been a massive loan. The project I was working on, the bank officer had stolen about $275,000 through a series of loans that he made to fictitious companies, had created fictitious business plans, projections, and he would fund those loans, approve those loans, and fund those loans under his own authority. So this is a story that's been happening for many, many years. It's just the numbers keep getting bigger. So,
and I'm interested, Lance, about the title of the employee as a loan processor. It doesn't matter if they're in the C-suite or not. I mean, the fraud can go in any direction, it seems like. So,
yeah, absolutely.
The Nightclub owner is sentenced to PPP and idle fraud. There we go. We got some cars, hopefully, for this one.
Goodness, I might have to disappoint you. I'm not sure if there's any cars in this one. But Deborah and Adesh Budraj were both sentenced and ordered to pay a fine and restitution so they had sold their combination restaurant, bar, and nightclub in February 2020, and they had already received most of the money for that sale in March. Yet despite that, they decided to go ahead and apply for PPP and idle. They received $558,000 for that, despite the other owners taking over all of the operations, payroll, other expenses, lease, etc. And they did admit they never had any intention of using the loans for the club's expenses. No surprise there. They were using it on real estate transactions and unknown personal expenses.
Yeah. Well, Anna, do we have any questions? If not, you can email me, joseph@colemanreport.com. Ms. Lopez, it was wonderful to have you and talking about your new fund, and it's very exciting, the work that you guys are doing for the small business community. And Delaney, wonderful reporting as always. It's I haven't been on Fraud Friday in a while, and it's never ceases to amaze me what has come about. So if you want to email me about the loan broker table, I'd love to hear your comments on what we're trying to put together. The brokers and the lenders meet every week on Thursdays, and it's been really fun. So Anna and I have been doing a lot of work for that. And Lance, hopefully one day you can join us for that. So that'd be.
We look forward to it, Joe.
Wonderful. It was great seeing everyone today. This concludes today's Coleman Report Live and Fraud Friday. Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.